stock market manipulation, environmental disaster, mass unemployment, immigration, open borders, bailouts and derivatives, mass media distraction, war. How are these things connected? To find out, join us at the Grassroots Connection, Monday through Friday, 7 to 8 p.m. on WOIC, 1230 a.m.
Everybody knows that the boat is leaking. Everybody knows the captain lied. Everybody got this broken feeling.
And welcome back to the Grassroots Connection, where we provide the information you need to make an informed decision. And today's one of those days. We have Rich Bolen, our special guest, head of chairman of the Lexington County Republican Party, answering questions today. And I just want you guys to give him a big welcome. We have some callers up, and they already have posed a few questions. So let's get right back into it. And Miss Obsidian, are you still there?
Oh, yes, I'm still breathing.
Oh, good, good. I know that was a long commercial break. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, you're quite fine. Don't worry. It happens.
But we have to pay the bills, you know how that
I was
goes.
just going to say, if you don't, then, hey, you're up the creek with no paddle.
Absolutely. So would you, again, please reiterate your question for Mr. Bolen?
Well, it's not going to be word for word, unfortunately, but in essence what it comes down to is this, is that in light of, okay, let me preface this, my question with this, is that as even the current President Obama has said that no one's above the law during the time that he was running for office. Not just everyday person, but also politicians.
That's
okay? Hence the question is this, is regarding the previous administration and the various heads that were in position at that time, in which the situation of the supposed terror attack, the aspect of instigation of going and attacking another country with the various military special forces and whatnot, have you, and as well as people being imprisoned in facilities that advocated torture, regardless of what form it may have taken in, and so forth. In essence, when are these individuals of the previous administration in those positions of authority going to be dealt with in a legal fashion to answer for their crimes against humanity in general and in principle as far as the law is concerned?
Okay, that's a big
Boy, that's
big
a big
question.
one, yeah. But we appreciate it, Ms. Obsidian, and go ahead, Rich, sorry.
Sure. Well, you got to keep perspective. I understand the outrage that we feel from people suffering inappropriately, particularly innocent people. But on the other hand, we have a serious threat that anybody who has the classified information, has seen the evidence that we have not, has to make decisions for the benefit of all of us in America. And obviously they can turn that on us, and that would be even worse. And we can't condone it when it's used inappropriately in the foreign battlefield. But we've been fortunate in this country for the last 50 years not to really have to think about a mass war, a real war that was like World War II or World War I or the Civil War. We had Vietnam, even Korea, and of course we had the first Gulf War and then this Gulf War, but none of it, we only know about what we see on TV, and we aren't really concerned about tanks rolling down our street. And so it's easy for us to say, you shouldn't do these things, or you need to use more tolerance and judicial restraint when you're trying to get evidence to stop the next attack. And so that's a long answer to say, I'm not comfortable saying to the Obama administration, you need to go rout out every person in the Bush administration that you have a beef with or that is the worst case and try to punish them for making decisions that they were making at the time. And I think if you talk to him about some of the decisions he made when he was in the Senate, he will say, I did the best I could with what I knew at the time. I believe he said that on a couple of different issues that have come up, and I can respect that, because at the time, particularly after September 11th, we were all scared. We were all Americans. We were all brothers, and we were all out to defend ourselves. And none of us were too concerned about waterboarding a terrorist. But after 5 years, when we're back in our lifestyle and we're comfortable, it's easy to say, hey, you shouldn't be doing this. But if you're in the SEALs or you're in the Special Forces and you're over there seeing it every day and risking your life, you want somebody torturing or getting the information however you can to save your life. So I guess my long answer is to say I'm going to defer to Barack Obama, the Justice Department, the people that are in the authority to make the decisions about whether somebody did something wrong or not. I think there have been people punished for violating the law, but I don't want Barack Obama and his advisors wondering whether or not somebody in the next administration is going to punish them when they're making decisions about how to keep me safe. I want them to be able to worry about keeping me safe and not worrying about a civil lawsuit or a criminal charge because they made the wrong decision in hindsight. Is that an answer? Does that help?
That's somewhat close, but then again, there's the vagueness of how the current administration would go about doing that protection, doing that procuring of information, and so forth. When the people here in the U.S., regardless of the background, politically speaking or whatever have you, and standing, that are okay. Let me give you an example. At one time, when my husband was working up in North Carolina, and I was there at the house in South Carolina, for example, and I would converse with my husband, my mate, my companion, my boyfriend, over the cell phone, and our line was tapped for no verifiable reason, and I could hear the line being tapped. And yet I was enraged by that invasion of my privacy between my spouse and myself. That is no one in the government's position of authority to go and tap on our line in our private conversation between two people, adults, and what they have to discuss. That we pay our taxes, we abide by the law more than the U.S. government does, and I really don't appreciate what is being done as far as the Patriot Act is concerned, which was supposed to have been repealed.
No, now you will get no argument out of me about that situation. That's a totally different situation than waterboarding a terrorist. And if someone in the Bush administration did that, then I want to see them arrested and charged. I do not want to see any American citizens' rights being violated by the government at any level. I don't want the state, the county, the town, the federal government, the UN. I don't want anyone violating our God-given rights. And they are God-given rights that the government can't take from us unless we let them. And if somebody tapped you illegally, then it would be great if we could find out who did it and prosecute it. But unfortunately, and as an attorney, I do some criminal defense work, and I've seen things that are clearly violations of the law that I do not condone, and I have no use for that. I'd rather see, as the old adage goes, 100 guilty men go free than one innocent person get convicted. And that's the way I feel about it. Law enforcement has a tough job, and they sometimes cross the line saying that they're doing it for the greater good. But to me, that's not right. I have no interest in that. I'd rather have you get away with something than them tap your phone illegally. And if you can pursue it, and it's too hard to pursue it because I'll tell you, the government insulates themselves from consequences. They can do things that you and I could never get away with.
I'd like to kind of elaborate a little bit on one part of her question, and as it pertains to, I think you were referring to Abu Ghraib and Bagram, where there's some allegations of torture and absolutely some proof, not just allegations. And how that lines up with our commitment to the Geneva Conventions. And,
excellent point.
And whether under international law, maybe not necessarily U.S. law, although I think that there were some violations of that, where do you line up with, we actually executed war criminals after World War II. And it wasn't just the president or the head of the military. I mean, there were people who were everyday people that were convicted of war crimes because of just basically following orders. And we see now that our government in the past in Iraq has tortured and waterboarded people. These are violations of the Geneva Convention.
All right. That's a valid point as far as it goes, but there's a big difference between cooking people in an oven and starving them to death and making lampshades out of them and putting underwear on their head and making them stand naked in front of women.
Well, my question is, really, would you support any candidate who wanted to hold these administrations, because I think the Obama administration would be guilty of some of this right now, accountable to international law? Because, again, the interpretation of that law would be up to a judge and not up to us. There would be someone to bring charges, obviously, against these administrations, and I think some of those charges have already been brought. So, again, my question is, how would you feel as an attorney, as the head of the Republican Party of Lexington County, if these charges were brought to light and people had to make a choice? Is that a war crime or is it not to torture someone?
I would not ever embrace or support the idea of an international tribunal making the call. We are the greatest country on the earth. We are the most humanitarian. We do more for the rest of the country, the rest of the world combined. And our people like you and me and Obsidian would be much better judges of whether there was a human rights violation there than Libya, Iraq, even England or France.
Or Germany.
Or Germany.
The Hague.
I would much rather trust American citizens to decide the fate of American soldiers and officers than an international tribunal. And we've done that. There was a trial of 4 SEALs that were accused of violating the civil rights of an Iraqi captive by punching them in the stomach. And all 4 of them were acquitted. They all had trials. They had attorneys. They had an opportunity to defend what they did. And a jury of American peers said they didn't violate the law. And there's been other ones that have been convicted and sent to prison, sent to Leavenworth. And our system is much better than anything the international court has to offer us.
On this one, Rich, I'm sorry, Miss Obsidian, but on this one, Rich, on this point, we're going to have to disagree. I see a conflict of interest in one country judging itself whether or not it committed war crimes. That's just a conflict of interest that I don't think any justice could come out of that kind of conflict. Now go ahead, Miss Obsidian. I'm sorry.
I am inspired of a question now. If the people have a choice of saying about what happens between someone who is being done in that way to get information and so forth, of the example that Mr. Bolen had just presented, one, when have I ever been asked, as any other person for that matter, citizen-wise, it's not a politician, when have I ever been asked about what my point of view was about how such people should be dealt with in a legal fashion? I have not.
You as an individual haven't, but people that are your peers, that are your equals, have been. There's federal juries impaneled every day, and they're made up of people like you and me that are just regular old American citizens.
Really?
And we're given the opportunity to decide what right and wrong is. And that system is the most secure system in the world. And as far as Andre, deferring to other countries, the problem is those other countries on any given time can use that court just to take advantage of us, just to give us a black eye, just to make us weaker in the eyes of the rest of the world and trump up charges and say these dirty Americans did this, even though it's completely bogus.
Actually, come to think of it, you just brought to memory of a situation similar to that.